we would like you to share with us one childhood memory which brings back, fond recollections.
Back in, 8th or 9th grade, I grew up very, very poor. Lived in a trailer, and our house blew over one time in a storm, and our turtles died in the heat vent. And so we didn't get to really do vacations or travel. It's one of the reasons I'm passionate about that now, I think. But we had an aunt and uncle, and I kind of modeled myself after him. My degree's accounting. He was the chief accountant for Arco, which became ExxonMobil. And they lived in Thousand Oaks, near Los Angeles. And they took me out there for an entire month. And I got to visit 5 states. We even got into a casino, and at 16 years old, I looked older than I was, so I got to gamble and didn't get carded. And there was a rooftop pool in this one hotel we stayed in. I mean, it was like my eyes were bugging out of my head. My jaw was dropping because I'd never seen these things. But every day I swam in the pool, and I got to really experience sort of this big world out there after growing up in a fairly small world. And I just remember, they flew me out there, they flew me back. They spent a whole month just taking care of me, having me experience all these things. We went to Nevada and saw the fantastic, the environment there and the big sky view of things. And it really began to open my eyes that, the reality I had was not the reality that I needed to live with the rest of my life. And so it really had an impact on me to see, one, their generosity and how one person's kindness can make a huge impact on somebody else. And then also it was one of the things that set me on a journey toward realizing, hey, I can kind of create a life. And if I work really, really hard, I can become a different person than the path that I'm on. And so I look back at that month as, yes, there was a lot of R&R, there was a lot of being spoiled, there was a lot of swimming in their pool and all those kind of things. But it really made an impact on a young man to realize that the life he wanted was out there. He just had to work really hard and go for it and invest in himself and be kind to others and those kind of things. So their kindness and generosity had a huge impact and really opened my eyes to a great big world out there.
Love it. Love it. It's so important sometimes that the little things that others do for you can actually sort of remain with you for the rest of your life. Beautifully said. Beautifully said. And Sidney, would love to hear about your childhood memory.
Yeah, so one of my fondest memories is really watching my mother teach herself how to type. And she became a medical transcriptionist. She's done data entry, went to different schools. And watching her do all of these things, because she was in a process of transformation, moving from Chicago and moving us to Detroit to keep us away from the ghettos of Cabrini Greens. And, she felt like we wouldn't make it past 18 living there. And I appreciate that move. And then seeing her move from this young lady that, was in this growth phase, but still didn't really have the direction, into finding the direction by going to the library and just studying and just really having this inner passion. That really impressed upon me so much that it's really driven my life to this point. And so when I think back as an early kid drawing and sketching Leonardo da Vinci paintings and having that passion to be an artist, and being able to integrate that with some of the skills that I taught myself, such as typing, I got that from my mom, and then being able to integrate that with troubleshooting and technology, and then also ultimately teaching myself how to develop software. I always correlate that process of growth that happened with me through personal improvement and personal development with her process, and I can really see the ripple effect of what she's achieved and how it empowers me. So beautiful. I would say it's my best childhood memories. Beautiful.
It's nice that it's so beautiful that people who are close to us can leave such a huge impact by little things that they do and the presence that they have in our lives. They just touch. I mean, that is something which we should be mindful of as well, especially for the next generation who we are dealing with, on a daily basis, because we need to be role models, right? It's not just to our own children, but to youngsters around us as well. Sidney, and thank you for sharing that little story from your childhood. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Bobby, would love to know your childhood memory.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I think there's so many different memories, but I guess the one I'm going to share is I spent a month away from my family at a camp, and all my life I always felt I never fit in. You know, I was too Canadian and Westernized for my family. I was too much of a brainiac nerd for my other colleagues in school, grade, and I felt too young compared to my other colleagues, and I never felt I fit in anywhere. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I was a people guy, but I was nerdy. I was good at sports, but I was popular. Like I had all different things that I would do. And so then I went into this program in high school, and it was amazing. It was transformative because I started seeing all these other people who were like me, who were kind of in the same boat. And I learned a lot of things. Number one, I was finally in a tribe of people that were just like myself. We all had the same struggles with not fitting in and trying to be the best we could be, but also people not understanding us, or people thinking that we're nerds, or our families not getting us and didn't know how to support us because we were kind of beyond them in some ways, culturally. And so it was a fantastic program of diverse people. And one of the things I learned there is that, number one, I had to move away from my parents and my family in order to really discover who I was and what I wanted to do, was the first thing. The second thing, though, I realized that when you surround yourself with people who are like you and surround yourself with the best people, that's when you can really thrive. Because at that program, I discovered things about myself, and I took on things and I took risks, including like business presentation stuff that I never would have done in the first place, and doing physical activities and relationships I never would have thought I would do. And by the end of that program, and when I realized it was over, I was sobbing for 30 minutes because I realized it was over. And that transformation of those people, and I'm still in touch with those people 30 years today. That blows my mind, because those people, we were all in high school, and that month away from home really transformed a lot about how I see the world and how I want to grow as a person, and how I want to actually, curate my kids, independent and productive global citizens, and the way I was raised myself.
And I think you brought up a very important point. Birds of a feather flock together. It's so important to being able to find your tribe, because it's, who you surround yourself with has such a huge impact on who you become as a person. Beautifully said, Bobby. Really, really appreciate that. So thank you for sharing that with us. And it leads us into Tom. Please share with us your childhood memory.
For many years, our family growing up, we took a vacation up in the Adirondack Park in New York State. Everybody familiar with the Northeast, it's a huge forever wild region in the center of New York State. And we would go to a lake up there called Lake Sacandaga. And just that week would incorporate so many different things. I'd start off early in the morning, take a canoe out when there's still mist on the lake, and go fishing, and just to be on the lake and see balloons and the otters and the minks, playing in the water. And by the time I get back, the mist is off the water. So we were all heading out while the water was still like glass and do some water skiing. And then we come back in, and then, we go for a swim, and then it'd be lunchtime, and then we're going sailing because now the wind has kicked up a little bit. And, the day would progress, and eventually we end up at the end of the night at the lodge. There's like 5 families went to the same place every year. And in the lodge, they get the fire going, and there was a piano there, so I play some piano. And we'd my mom and another one of the moms play guitar, and they'd sing just like folk songs and whatnot. And if it was a rainy day, you sat on this big, huge open porch on one of the wicker rocking chairs and read a great book. So that week represented just such a richness of just clean fun. Everyone having a great time together. It was such a warm, wonderful feeling of all these different elements of athletics and friendship and family and food, singing and creative stuff. It was a little bit of everything. It was just such a cool experience every time we went. It was just very bonding for all those 5 families. We've stayed in touch for many years.
That's lovely. You brought up a very, very important point there. We can do that today as well. We just need to disconnect ourselves to reconnect more meaningfully. The moment we actually disconnect from the distractions around us is when we actually reconnect with people who truly matter, and we reconnect with ourselves. That brings us to the end of this segment, and Joy and I would like to thank you all for spending your evening with us. Thank you very, very much for your time.